All right, here we are. We finally found St. Mark's Square. This is the Basilica. And just like we've heard, this place is an absolute zoo, but the architecture is amazing. I don't even know what we're looking at. I guess we'll figure it out when we take the tours. Oh, it was an experience just to find this place. The side roads and the streets are just so intertwined. There's no north-south street grid here like there is in the US. It's just everything twists and wraps around. It's pretty amazing. All right, signing off. All right, we're inside the Doge's palace. Pretty amazing stuff. So this is where the ruler, the head of Venice used to live. Doge, I think, was equivalent to like Duke, but he wasn't royalty. I don't know if he was elected or appointed, but because Venice was a merchant city, it was who the aristocrats, I believe, chose to be their leader in some fashion. So that right there, that's their cistern, and they still use these things. So if you notice down here, that's a rainwater collectors. This is how Venice got and still gets their drinking water. So the rainwater collectors, they would go to underground cisterns, and then they would fish their water out of the cisterns right about there. Pretty cool. We've seen them in Murano as well, and I think they're still in use. All right, we're starting the tour of the Doge's Palace. We have Rick Steve's Venice guidebook in hand, and so I'm going to be narrating here, and we're going to be videoing our various stops, and I'll just be narrating out of the guidebook so you guys can follow along. All right, this is the mouth of truth. This fierce-looking androgyne opens his or her mouth, ready to swallow a piece of paper, hungry for gossip. Letter boxes like this, some with lions' heads, were scattered throughout the palace. Originally, anyone who had a complaint or a suspicion about anyone else could accuse him anonymously by simply dropping a slip of paper in the mouth. This set the blades of justice turning inside the palace. Okay, here we go. I'll try to go to the tour guide here. It says this is going to be called the Golden Staircase. The name of the Golden Staircase is due to the rich decoration of the vault in white stucco and 24-karat gold, upon which Alessandro Vittoria began work in 1557. The frescoed compartments in the decoration are by Giambattista Franco, commissioned from the architect Jacopo Sansovino in 1555. The staircase was finally completed in 1559. This was the ceremonial staircase that led up to the Doge's apartments and to the chambers in which the main bodies of state government met. Its sumptuous entranceway is surmounted by two marble sculptures. On the right is Atlas bearing up the vault of the heavens. On the left, Hercules slaying the Hydra. Both are the work of Tiziano Aspetti in the 16th century. The first ramp of the staircase is dedicated to Venus, an allusion to Venice's conquest of the island of Cyprus, birthplace of the goddess. The stairs then fork into two ramps. The one on the right leads to the Doge's apartments and is decorated with motifs referring to Neptune and thus to Venice's mastery over the seas. In both cases, mythology is put to the service of the Republic and the celebration of itself. Also, the palace was architectural propaganda designed to impress visitors. The staircase with a 24-karat gilded ceiling was something for them to write home about. As you ascend the stairs, look back at the floor below and marvel at its 3D pattern.
Okay, what was that? Somebody wrote it to the camera.
Okay, this is called the Square Room. The ceiling painting, called Justice Presenting the Sword and Scales to Doge Girolamo Priuli, is by Jacopo Tintoretto. It says stand at the top of the painting for the full 3D effect. It's a late Renaissance masterpiece. So what? As you'll soon see, this palace is wallpapered with Titans, Tintorettos, and Veroneses. Many have the same theme you see here, a Doge in his ermine cape, gold brocaded robe, and funny one-horned hat with ear flaps, kneeling in the presence of saints, gods, or mythological figures. Alright, this is the room of the 4 doors. This was the central clearinghouse for all goings-on in the palace. Visitors presented themselves here and were directed to their destination, the courts, councils, or the Doge himself. The room was designed by Andrea Palladio, the architect who did the impressive church of the San Giorgio Maggiore across the Grand Canal from St. Mark's Square. That's what we saw outside. On the intricate stucco ceiling, notice the feet of the women dangling down below the edge above the windows.
Oh, oh yeah.
Extending the illusion. Alright, this is the Ante Collegio Hall. If accepted for a visit, you would wait here before you entered, combing your hair, adjusting your robe, popping a breath mint, and preparing for the gifts you brought, or preparing the gifts you had brought. While you cooled your heels and warmed your hands at the elaborate fireplace.
I don't want my fireplace anymore. I just kicked it out of
You might look at some of the paintings among the finest in the palace, worthy of any museum in the world. Alright, this is called the Rape of Europa. Most likely shocked many small-town visitors with its risque subject matter. Here, Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, appears in the form of a bull with a foot fetish, seducing a beautiful earthling while cupids spin playfully overhead. The Venetian Renaissance looked back to pagan Greek and Roman art, a big change from the saints and the crucifixion of the Middle Ages. This painting doesn't portray the abduction in a medieval condemnation of sex and violence, but rather as a celebration in cheery pastel colors of the earthy, optimistic spirit of the Renaissance.
He was known to do that.
Yeah. All right. Tintoretto's Bacchus and Ariadne is another colorful display of Venice's sensual tastes. The god of wine seeks a threesome, offering a ring to the mortal Ariadne, who's being crowned with stars by Venus, who turns slowly in zero gravity. The ring is the center of the spinning wheel of flesh, with 3 arms like spokes. But wait, the Doge is ready for us. Let's go in. Okay. It says, flanked by his cabinet of 6 advisors, 1 for each Venetian neighborhood, the Doge would sit on the wood-paneled platform at the far end to receive ambassadors who laid their gifts at his feet and pleaded their country's cases.
Oh, that is so cool, that stairway.
All official ceremonies, such as the ratification of treaties, were held here. At other times, it was the Oval Office where the Doge and his cabinet, the executive branch, met privately to discuss proposals to give to the legislature, pull files from the cabinets along the right wall regarding business with Byzantium, or rehearse a meeting with the Pope. The wooden benches around the sides, which we're sitting on right now actually, are original. The clock on the wall is a backward running 24-hour clock with Roman numerals and a sword for a single hand. Now the ceiling is gilded with paintings by Veronese. These are not frescoes, which are painting on wet plaster like those in the Sistine Chapel, but actual canvases painted in Veronese's studio and then placed on the ceiling.
Oh, that's so cheating. That is so cheating.
The T-shaped painting of the woman with the spider web on the ceiling opposite the big window. Do we see that up there anywhere?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, right. Okay, there we go.
Oh, yeah. Charlotte's Web.
Represents the Venetian symbol of discussion. You can imagine the webs of truth and lies woven in this room by the Doge's scheming advisors.
Oh my gosh.
In Mars and Neptune with Campanile and Lion, the ceiling painting near the entrance, Veronese presents four symbols.
Veronese. Yeah, his name is Veronese.
Sorry, I gotta do a page turn. Representing the Republic's strength, military, sea trade, city, and government, plus a cherub about to be circumcised by the Campanile. Oop, now maybe that's up there. You'll note that nearly every painting features a different Doge, each identified by his oval family crest. All right, this is the Senate Hall. While the Doge presided from the stage, senators mounted the podium in the middle of the wall with the windows. Back over here. To address their 120 colleagues. The legislators, chaired by the Doge, debated and passed laws in this room. Venice prided itself on its self-rule, independent of popes, kings, and tyrants, with most power placed in the hands of these annually elected noblemen. Which branch of government really ruled? All of them. It was an elaborate system of checks and balances to make sure no one rocked the gondola, no one got too powerful, and the ship of state sailed smoothly ahead. Tintoretto's large Triumph of Venice on the ceiling, the central painting best viewed from the top,
That Tintoretto was pretty popular.
is an allegory of the city in all of her glory. Lady Venice is up in heaven with the Greek gods while barbaric lesser nations swirl up to give her gifts and tribute. Do you get the feeling the Venetian aristocracy was proud of this city? On the wall are two large clocks, one of which has the signs of the zodiac in the phases of the moon. And there's one final oddity in this room in case you hadn't noticed it yet. In one of the wall paintings above the entry door, there's actually a Doge not kneeling.
Oh, because they're usually kneeling to Venus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, rabble.
No, he's not kneeling either. One of them started, the other was like, he's not kneeling.
Group behind us. All right, this is called the Hall of the Council of Ten. By the 1400s, Venice had a worldwide reputation for swift, hard, and secret justice. The dreaded Council of 10 judges plus the Doge and 6 advisors, met here to dole out punishment to traitors, murderers, and morals violators.
It's the court.
Slowly, they developed into a CIA-type unit with their own force of police officers, guards, spies, informers, and even assassins. They had their own budget and were in practice accountable to no one, soon making them the de facto ruling body of the Republic. It seemed no one was safe from the spying eye of the terrible 10. You could be accused of certain crimes anonymously by the letters dropped in the mouths of truth, swept off the streets, tried, judged, and thrown into the dark dungeons in the palace for the rest of your life without so much as a Miranda warning.
Wow.
Oh my.
It was in this room that the council decided who lived or died and who was decapitated, tortured, or merely thrown in jail. The small, hard-to-find door leading off the platform, which is the 5th panel to the right of center. Ooh, there's a door over there somewhere. Oh my goodness.
Where?
Crazy.
See the light post? It's right there. Yes. That's jail?
Leads through secret passages to the prisons and the torture chambers.
Oh, no. You do not want to be in this room.
The large central oval ceiling painting by Veronese. It's a copy of the original stolen by Napoleon and still in the Louvre. Shows Jupiter descending from heaven to strike down the vices, redundantly informing the accused that justice in Venice was swift and harsh. To the left of that, Veronese painted Juno showering Lady Venice with coins, crowns, and peace.
Is that it? You think that's the Council of 10? Up there?
Though the dreaded Council of 10 was eventually disbanded, today their descendants enforce the dress code at St. Mark's Basilica.
Oh, funny. That's awful. That's really awful. The best.
To kill you, and he's dressed like that. I'm like, just do it, man. I'm not gonna fight you.
Look at this shield. It looks like it's also an arrow.
These are for tournaments.
I would probably move away. That is awful.
These people were not messing around with their weaponry. Oh my goodness. The size of those swords, those are about 4 feet long, just the blades. These swords are about 6 feet long. And those blades, and just the blades at the end of the handles are about 3 feet long. So this fresco is about 20 feet tall. All right, this is the hall of the Grand Council. It took a room this size to contain the grandeur of the most serene republic. This huge room, 175 by 80 feet, could accommodate up to 2,600 people at one time. The engineering is remarkable. The ceiling is like the deck of a ship. Its hull is the rooftop, creating a huge attic above that. The Doge presided from the raised dais, while the nobles, the backbone of the empire, filled the center and lined the long walls. Nobles were generally wealthy men over 25, but the title had less to do with money than with long bloodlines. In theory, the Doge, the Senate, and the Council of 10 were all subordinate to the Grand Council of Nobles who met here to elect them. On the wall over the Doge's throne is Tintoretto's monster piece called Paradise, the largest oil painting in the world. Wow. And we'll zoom in on this one. Like, at 570 square feet, it could be sliced up to wallpaper an apartment with enough left over for placemats. Christ and Mary are at the top of heaven, surrounded by 500 people. It's rush hour in heaven, and all the good Venetians made it. The painting leaves you feeling that you get to heaven not by being a good Christian, but by being a good Venetian. Tintoretto worked on this in the last years of his long life. On the day it was finished, his daughter died. He got his brush out again and painted her as Saint number 501. She's dead center with the blue skirt, hands clasped, getting sucked up to heaven. Veronesi's Apotheosis of Venice on the ceiling at the Tintoretto end. View it from the top. That's way up there. Let's see. Is a typical unsubtle work showing Lady Venice being crowned by a goddess, or crowned a goddess by an angel. Ringing the top of the hall are portraits in chronological order of the first 76 Doges. The one at the far end that's blacked out in the left corner.
I'm looking over there.
Oh, there are a bunch of left.
Oh, over there.
Oh, up here. No, right up there. See?
Okay.
That one up there. Okay, like this. Let's see. So the one that's at the far end that's blacked out is the notorious Doge Marinfalier, who opposed the will of the Grand Council in 1355. He was tried for treason, beheaded, and airbrushed from history.
Oh my gosh.
Along the entire wall to the right of Paradise, the siege of Constantinople by Tintoretto's son Domenico shows Venice's greatest military, if not moral, victory, the conquest of the fellow Christian city of Constantinople during the Fourth Crusade of 1204. The mighty walls of Constantinople...
I'm going to lower a little bit for the walls.
Repelled every attack for nearly 1,000 years, but the sneaky Venetians in the fifth painting circled around back and attacked where the walls rose straight up from the water's edge. Skillful Venetian oarsmen cozied their galleys right up to the dock, allowing soldiers to scoot along the cross beams attached to the masts and onto the top of the city walls.
Oh, you can't see it because of the light.
In the foreground, an archer cranks up his crossbow. The gates are opened, the Byzantine emperor parades out to surrender, and the tiny Doge Dandolo, dressed in gold with his fancy Doge's hat, says, "Let's go in and steal some bronze horses." But soon Venice would begin its long slide into historical oblivion. One by one, the Ottomans gobbled up Venice's trading outposts. In the west, the rest of Europe ganged up on Venice to reduce her power. By 1500, Portugal had broken Venice's east-west trade monopoly by finding a sea route to the east around the southern tip of Africa. To top it off, despite winning a famous victory in the bloody Battle of Lepanto in 1571, Venice's reputation as a naval power began to suffer. Their ships could not compete with Spain's more modern, more effective armada. Over the centuries, Venice remained a glorious city, but not the world power she once was. Finally, in 1797, the French general Napoleon marched into town shouting, "Liberté, égalité, fraternité." The most serene republic was finally conquered, and the last Doge abdicated in the name of modern democracy. Out the windows, if they're open, is a fine view of the domes of the basilica, the palace courtyard below.
Right there.
Okay. Close-up of the largest oil painting in the world. Here's the ceiling. The size of this room is immense. That painting right there is probably about 20 feet long on the ceiling, if not more.
Ser ut som han kör makt, ja. Liksom.